But yeah, vamos a orar para empezar. Let's pray. Y si todos ustedes pueden orar, if everyone can pray in different languages and everyone para que todos entiendan. Because that's probably the only thing, es lo único que me preocupaba, the only thing that worried me, is that everyone understands. Porque, I mean, todos sabemos, yo sé que me puedo expresar, I can express myself the best in English. But I know I've come up here y el Señor me ha dado las palabras en español también, so whoever's not by someone that doesn't speak Spanish or English, si le pueden traducir, si se pierden, pero we'll see. Dear Lord, thank you for this day, and thank you for bringing us all here safely in your name, Lord. And just now I pray for this moment that you've prepared me for a long time. And just give me the words in whatever heavenly language that we're going to be speaking, Lord, for everyone to understand the words that you're going to be speaking through me, Lord. Thank you for preparing me for this moment. And I pray for all my brothers and sisters in Christ, my brothers and sister, and my mom and dad, and our entire church. And just thank you for bringing me to this moment. In your name I pray, amen. So, yeah, se me olvidó completely que tenía que dar la palabra, and I thought it was just it was going to be a surprise for everyone lo que iba a decir. But as we already read, ya leímos que voy a estar hablando de David y Goliat, a very typical subject. Era una de mi mejor favorita historia cuando era niño. Not only probably because la historia de los niños was David, a little small kid who faced his giant, you know, enfrentó a su gigante. Pero lo más que Dios me ha permitido crecer, everything that the Lord has taught me in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've come to realize, I don't know how you say come to realize, Spanish. Me he dado cuenta how detailed the Bible is, and que todos estos versos cuando estaba en la iglesia as a kid, que los leía, hasta canciones, even songs that like I played there all the time as a kid, that now it just felt differently. And as I read more and more, it's just how it just doesn't look the same. It's like no estoy leyendo la misma Biblia que cuando era niño. Dios me ha hablado muchas veces el último año y medio, pero este año, this year, He's really put it in my heart. A mí siempre me ha gustado la música. I've always liked music, worship. That's the way that I've always been in touch with God. Como yo me acerco al Señor y como lo siento. Y siempre he visto a todas las personas que they get really into praying, they get really into a sermon, they get really into leyendo la Biblia. And I never, even después de the trip to Wichi last year, no tenía todavía esa pasión para sentarme and to read the Bible, or to pay attention to my dad, or sermons. It just always seems kind of boring to me. Aburrido un poquito, almost. Yeah, I know. I mean, I always just doze off. If I sit down, me siento en un sofá, I go to sleep. You know. But I've been praying, estoy orando mucho para. I've realized that God will give you, te va a dar your deepest desires of your heart according to His will. Muchas veces you know, mucha gente nomás lee la primera, because in this day and age, everything's about me. You know, oh, he's going to give me my biggest desires. So I'm just really happy and thankful that que él me ha dado esa pasión para leer la Biblia, escuchar muchos sermones y todo lo que me ha enseñado. So all year he escuchado muchos sermones de todo, muchos pastores que me han puesto en mi corazón, y I've been excited writing notes. I have notes, tengo notas, muchas notas de muchos sermones, a lot of topics. And a lot of times I'd be sitting there, whether it's in my car, in mi casa, y I get excited that I want to like give my own message, because I see my dad or hear someone, they have how passionate they get about God and the words that he puts through them for other people to hear, because I mean, ese es el punto, no, that bring as many as people, which would bring everyone to Christ. Mi primer sermón, Dios me puso en mi corazón de David y Goliat. Vamos a empezar en... todos sabemos la historia de Goliat. Everyone knows the story of David and Goliath. Lo he leído mucho, y more and more comes to me every time I read it. Y hay mucho que a mí ni me he dado cuenta, I didn't even notice until I sat down to really like read it a lot of times en detalle y todo. I don't know how to say metaphors. ¿Cómo se dice metaphors? Metaphors que Dios nos da throughout the whole Bible, and it's really awesome. It really is. So we're going to start in 1 Samuel 16:4. We all know the story. Samuel went to Bethlehem to anoint David. Fue a la ciudad de Bethlehem y iba a buscar a one of, what's his name's sons? Jesse. Oh, sorry, siempre se me olvida con los nombres, where exactly it is, but you know, the words always, las palabras siempre conocen, but I don't know exactly where they are in the Bible all the time, in memoria, but I know they're there. And a lot of, muchas veces, one of these verses that I'm going to start with, que voy a empezar, quiero hablar, honestly, había muchas notas, y I didn't want to come up here just to ramble about a bunch of different things, de muchas cosas, and cuando me senté para finally like estudiar, I realized that tenía muchas notas, de a bunch of different things. So, I guess that eso es for the next time, y después. So, whenever God wants me to come back up here, tengo muchas cosas de hablar, and different details. But this one, este va a ser, and we all heard it, facing your giants. You know, todos tenemos esos gigantes, you know, y muchas veces, you know, you hear that everyone's got their giants. Todos peleamos contra nuestros Goliath, nuestros giants. Y muchas veces no nos damos cuenta qué exacto eso detalla, means. Todos tenemos gigantes, whether, you know, una cosa que a mí, you know, everyone's got their giant. Cuando estábamos en Huichi el año pasado, en julio, uno de los días, cuando fuimos a Tamasopo, ¿verdad? Yeah, había diferentes estaciones, y en una estación estaba en el Pastor Paco, estábamos ahí por el río, por un árbol, by a tree that we jump off of into the river, y él tenía una ilustración, y we had an illustration that really stuck to me, que de verdad me tocó mucho. Y él estaba hablando de estos gigantes, estas cosas que todos nosotros como humanos, us as humans, that we all struggle with every day. Que, you know, whether lo decimos o no lo decimos. Siempre, cada día, nosotros, porque somos humanos y a veces nos da vergüenza, we don't like to admit it, you know, but everyone's got that one thing that they worry about 24/7, their giant. Para mí era, de verdad, era insecurity. A lot of, it wasn't, no era mucho that, I've always had confidence. I've always, siempre, you know, I've always been a very competitive person. A mí me gustan los deportes, you know, a mí me gusta, siempre me ha gustado, pero I mean, my number one thing siempre is, you know, that a lot of muchos niños jóvenes, even grown-ups, I'm sure, you know, la notion, I don't know, is that you're not enough. You know, everyone's got that giant that they struggle with, and mine was just, you know, I'm not gonna lie, era dinero, you know, not having enough of it, and it wasn't till that really moment that God really touched me with that. Me tocó, la estación era que Pastor Paco told us to grab unas rocas, you know, and they symbolized, you know, whatever it is that you struggle with deep down. A lot of, you know, eran muchas cosas. A lot of times es dinero. Muchos jóvenes, they struggle with, you know, I don't know, your image. I can't really think of anything else, but la mía era el dinero. And, you know, Pastor Paco said, went into a whole thing about, you know, letting go of that. And it's funny, it's no chistoso, I don't know the word, que mi mamá usó Hebrews 12:1, que dice, en inglés dice, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially that sin that easily trips us up. No podemos hacer nada cuando, you know, something's weighing us down. You know, it's like one time, una vez que mi papá saved me from drowning in Sammy. They don't know wave pool, but then they left Xiaomi. He left Xiaomi. You know, it just weighed him down from doing it because he's human. And a lot of times, con todas las distracciones que tenemos en este día, con tecnología, de verdad es tecnología, de verdad. Nos perdemos, we lose sight of the goal in hand y nomás vemos a un gigante enfrentando a nosotros, and it freezes us up. You know, we freeze up. So anyway, vamos a empezar in 1 Samuel 16. Voy a empezar en 5. I will read it in English. Perfect. Okay. Yes, Samuel replied, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Purify yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. Then Samuel performed the purification rite for Jesse and his sons and invited them to sacrifice too. When they arrived, Samuel took one look at Eliab and thought, surely this is the Lord's anointed. Eliab era el más mayor, right? Mayor, that's the oldest son. Jesse himself, Samuel himself, el que Dios mandó, thought it was him, just because he's the oldest, he's the strongest, es el más experienced, el más fuerte. And a lot of times, muchos de nosotros vemos cosas y I don't know, we judge it. Lo juzgamos por outward appearance. En deportes es lo mismo. Cuando estamos escogiendo, when we're picking teams in gym class or something, si vamos a jugar basketball, los capitanes, they choose the tallest people because, you know, they look. But muchas veces, we found out in gym class que muchas veces the giants aren't always the best at sports, you know, or at basketball. I mean, me, I'm 5'7", I think I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at basketball, but I'm 5'7". And right here in verse 7, en verso 7, el Señor habla con Samuel, and we see que Dios, and we almost positive, it says this a lot of times in the Bible, que Dios no ve an outward appearance. This is just temporary, es temporal being here on this earth. Y no mira a nuestra exterior, but He looks at our heart. You know, the Lord judges and sees everyone from the heart, and only He knows. So verse 7 goes, but the Lord said to Samuel, don't judge by his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That really me tocó mucho ese verso, porque muchas veces, a veces yo, not being the biggest person, yo estaba en muchos deportes, a veces, when I came across someone who was bigger than me in basketball, or alguien, sometimes, me intimidated me, intimidaba. Yeah, me asustaba. Un poquito, I never let it show, porque yo siempre tenía un good poker face. Pero yo siempre sabía when I was in danger, I was like, uh-oh, cuando estaba en peligro, I was like, man, this guy's good. But yo siempre me ha gustado un dicho, a saying, and obvio, I never really realized that God says this saying too. Me, I was never the biggest guy, but yo sabía que I was really competitive, and I really gave it my all in todos los deportes. And I like the saying, it's not the size of the dog, but it's the fight in the dog. A pit bull, it's not the biggest dog in the world, but it's muy bravo. One of the most bravos dogs, and it'll kill a lot of dogs even bigger than him. So yeah, and we're going to jump ahead. So really, this is another verse. So we see that Jesse presenta a todos sus hijos, todos los 7, y luego Samuel is like, don't you have another one? And he's like, oh yeah, I do, but he's not here. So todos esperaban a David, y cuando llegó, verse 13, 1 Samuel 16:13. So as David stood there among his brothers, Samuel took the flask of olive oil he had brought and anointed David with the oil. And the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David from that day on. Then Samuel returned to Ramah. That, cuando yo lo leí, I don't know about you guys, and right now, me dio, kind of chills, And the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David from that day on. So, ¿qué significaba esto? No sabíamos, maybe él sí sabía, lo que Dios tenía preparado por toda su vida, for his whole life. But from that day on, it says the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. Powerfully is an understatement, I'm not going to say the understatement, for what he needed for his next challenge. We all know the story of David and Goliath. So we're going to jump ahead. Who is Goliath? There's, a mí me gusta, todos sabemos que a mí me gusta luchas. I like to fight. Me gusta, pero no me gusta pelear porque yo siempre estoy angry. De verdad me gusta como un deporte. I like it. I study it. Hay muchos. There's lots of ways, muchas ways que puedes pelear. In real life siempre vemos que todos los athletes, most famous athletes, not only the most successful ones, los más, I don't think, how do you say successful? And not only could they walk the walk, they could talk the talk. ¿Cómo se dice eso en español? También podían hablar, pero también podían pelear. Y David en there's a couple, unos versos que a mí me gustaban. Not only, obviously, do we know, sabemos cómo the story ends. David mata a Goliath, pero he does it in style. And honestly, God used David just to show off. They say show off. Yeah, para demostrar su poder. En fighting, en pelear, cuando dos personas, dos hombres o mujeres van a pelear, when there's two people going to fight, antes que lo ponen en la televisión, it's called the tail of the tape. I don't know how to say that in Spanish, but the tail of the tape, it describes el tamaño de las dos personas, qué alto están, cuánto peso, how much they weigh, how long their reach is, de aquí, y su record, their fighting record. So primero, the first one, the tail of the tape is Goliath. Vamos a leer 1 Samuel 16:4. El tail of the tape de Goliath.
You mean 17:4?
Perdón. Primero Samuel 17, 4. Then Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, came out of the Philistine ranks to face the forces of Israel. He was over 9 feet tall. He wore a bronze medal, and his bronze coat of mail weighed 120 pounds. Marines, nuestros soldados, Marines, yo pienso que, I'm pretty sure I should ask Tony, their armor weighs, I think, like 60 pounds, like 60 libras. This guy's armor and everything weighed 125 pounds. That's a lot. 125 pounds just carrying. That's like, I don't know. I was going to point at you, bro. That's a lot. That's going to weigh 125. He also wore bronze leg armor, and he carried a bronze javelin on his shoulder. The shaft of his spear was as heavy and as thick as a weaver's beam, tipped with an iron spearhead that weighed 15 pounds. An armor bearer walked ahead of him carrying a shield. So Goliath, 9 feet tall. Okay. Todos sabemos Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal 7'1". 9'5'7". See, Shaquille O'Neal stands right here. He's like, I can't even be like this, and he has pesa como 300 libras, maybe more. Goliath would have made Shaquille O'Neal look like me al lado de él. So that, just to put into perspective how big of a guy that Goliath was. Que alto y que grande, and how strong, que fuerte, to carry a 125-pound shield. I mean, body armor. Y todavía estar vivo en la batalla que todo él and everyone he killed. A lot of times, muchas veces, nosotros pensamos, we think that we can't take on our giants porque se ven too strong. Y muchas veces, no podemos. Pero con Dios sí podemos. With God, we can take on our giants. David, it's almost like, in this whole story, in just David and Goliath, I was trying to find, estaba tratando de encontrar donde David dudó, or he was a little scared or intimidated de Goliath, or the situation God was putting him in. Y muchas veces vamos a ver que he wasn't, honestly, he wasn't nervous at all. David was probably my size. Honestly, he's probably maybe a little shorter, maybe not as good looking. I'm lying. Because it says in verse 12 and 16, so Jesse said for him, he was dark and handsome with beautiful eyes. I never knew that, no sabía que dijo eso. But David was probably my size, and Goliath was 4 feet taller than him, and probably weighed maybe, I'd say probably at least 350 pounds, más que David. So right off the bat, these two people, David and Goliath, the way the world would look at them, obviously todos para apostar a Goliath. You know, let's take God out of the equation. It's just David and Goliath, dos humanos. Goliath's probably gonna kill him. Muchas veces, easily. But it's another cheesy verse, but I don't know how I say cheesy in Spanish. The verse says that, we'll see it later, that the Bible is sharper than any double-edged sword. There's literally no hay nada that can come against this. It really, and David knew that. A lot of times, muchas veces, nosotros, I think we lose, and me too, I'm just talking about in general, porque todos nosotros somos humanos, we're all human, and todos pecamos. We lose sight que we look at the physical of a problem, of each of our problems, de todos nuestros problemas, and we look at it and we think that we can't fight, so we don't even try, ni tratamos. Goliath, I'm gonna read verse 8 in 17:8. Goliath stood and shouted a taunt across the Israelites. "Why are you all coming to fight?" he called. "I am a Philistine champion, but you are only servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. If he kills me, then we will be your slaves. If I kill him, you will be our slaves. I defy the armies of Israel today. Send me a man who will fight me." When Saul and the Israelites heard this, they terrified and deeply shaken. Dos cosas stood out to me here. Leyendo eso, a mí, nunca me ha gustado los bullies. Cuando yo escucho a alguien being bullied, if I hear someone being bullied, I've always stood up for them. A veces me he ponido en unas peleas, fights, defending someone que no se pueden defender ellos solos. So I don't blame David for being mad. He wasn't mad, but when he heard this, we'll read ahead that when he heard this, he was like, "Is no one doing anything about this? This man, he's dissing God." Could you imagine if you guys heard someone cussing out God for 40 days, twice a day, dos veces al día por 40 días? Right here in verse 16, it says, for 40 days, every morning and evening, the Philistine champion strutted. Es un luchador que me gusta. Se llama Conor McGregor. Su signature move, una de sus cosas que él hace cuando él camina, when he walks out, he struts, and it demuestra su confidence. How do you say confidence in Spanish? Su confianza. And not only, él siempre le gusta hablar, porque cuando vas a pelear con alguien, or vas a jugar contra alguien, when you're going to fight or compete against someone, not only can you have to walk the walk, you have to talk the talk. Muchas veces, athletes in the world, they psych the opponent out by the way they talk. Athletes lo te quieren sacar de onda con tus palabras. Y muchas veces, muchas palabras, when we grew up, another saying was, "Sticks and stones can't hurt my bones." Sticks and stones can't, how do you say it again? Sticks and stones
don't make great
bones, but words will never hurt me. No sé dónde se puede ser dicho, porque this day and age, words is like the one thing, palabras is the one thing that hurts people. Through this, through social media, through comments y todo. Everyone tears down everyone on social media. Es el número number one thing that I guess is the cause of a lot of mucho this depression, in our culture. Many times in the Bible, no nomás en esta historia, we hear that, and we see that con las palabras de there's Goliath's words, David's own brother, and Saul, King Saul, ellos trataron con sus palabras to tear down David. But it didn't work, obviously. Porque what I've realized is that the number one rapper in the world, in all of the universe, world and heavens and earth, the number one poet, who's a poet? Number one artist ever is God. Como él pone las palabras, how he puts together words and metaphors is really, it's amazing. Como él nos dice certain metaphors, parables, we all heard it. Anyway, so he strutted in front. So for 40 days and 40 nights, 40 days, every morning and every evening, toda la mañana y toda la noche, Goliath, and Conor McGregor, his struts like this. It looks like this. Yeah, muy chocante. So picture Goliath strutting in front of the Israelites, everyone. Struts in front, nomás él, almost 10 feet tall, with his whole body armor, con toda su armadura, and he calls out someone to come fight him, and he cusses out God. And everyone, dice aquí, every time he came out, they fled and ran, se corrieron. I can't say, no puedo decir que yo, if I was that, I would be like David. No sé. Yeah, it's a little intimidating. A man almost 10 feet tall que estaba cubrido in metal, you know, and todos los Israelites have heard todas las historias, cuántos Goliath has killed. So then Jesse, David's dad, sends David to the fields, to the front line para llevar bread and supplies to his brothers. This reminds me, me recuerda con mi mamá, me manda comida with my brother, sends us food. But Jesse didn't know, no sabía que iba a mandar a David y lo que iba a pasar. So David ahí ya está. Y vamos a 1 Samuel 17:22. David left his things with the keeper of supplies and hurried out to the ranks to greet his brothers. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, came out from the Philistine ranks. Then David heard him shout his usual taunt to the army of Israel. As soon as the Israelites saw him, they began to run away. Have you seen the giant? The man asked. He comes out each day to defy Israel. Each day. The king has offered a huge reward to anyone who kills him. He will give that man one of his daughters for a wife, and the man's entire family will be exempt from paying taxes. Ese verso con este próximo me confundió un poquito, porque David asks again, pregunta de nuevo. David asks the soldier, this is verse 26. David asked the soldier standing nearby, what will a man get for killing this Philistine and ending his defiance? And I was like, David, he said it right there. You know, you're going to get, but to me that just signifies that didn't matter. David didn't care about, no le importaba what the king was going to give to the person que mataba a Goliath. Because to him, none of that mattered. He cares about his God. The one thing that really que lo enojó, pero he's like, how are you guys standing here letting this guy diss our God day in and day out? Why doesn't someone fight him? You know? And the first encounter that we see here of la primera cosa que la primera vez que alguien tried to break down David, la primera vez que alguien trató de tear down, hablar mal, not give him as much confidence, era el propio hermano de David, the oldest, Eliab. It says in verse 28, but when David's oldest brother Eliab heard David talking to the men, he was angry. What are you doing here anyway? He demanded. What about those few sheep you're supposed to be taking care of? Ooh, like, eso para mí, like, eso era in front of todos los soldados, and that's kind of a diss. Like, yo, what are you doing here anyway? Shouldn't you be going tending to your sheep? Okay, a shepherd, how do you say shepherd? Un pastor that tended sheep no era as, I guess, is an honorable trait. No era un job que un soldado. That, you know, it was kind of boring. You know, you took care of some sheep and you protected it from the wolf with a staff. You know. So David's brother broke him down and dissed him in front of everyone. And muchas veces this happens a lot in our day and age. You know, there's a lot of bullies. You know, whether it's online or in person. Growing up, me more so in person. In la escuela, I feel many years ago when I was in school. Porque ya me lo tengo 30, I'm almost 30 years old. We encounter a lot of bullies, muchas cosas, personas a veces that están muy cerca de aquí. Vemos that David, su propio hermano, his own brother, doubted David and tried to psych him out. Trató que lo sacaba de onda para lo que Dios tenía para él. Muchas veces nos encontramos con un bully y muchas veces, you know, we get angry. There's two outcomes. You either get mad and you fight back, or you get scared and you wither away. Sabemos como we're supposed to face it. We're not, you know, not supposed to. No tenemos, you know, if your enemy asks for your shirt, how do you say it in the verse? Give him your cloak too. You know, David, all he does in response to this, todo lo que he says in verse 29, what have I done now? David replied, I was only asking a question. And then he walked over to others and asked them the same thing and received the same answer. David pretty much just walked away from the first person that said he couldn't do it. He didn't let him no le dejó que lo sacara de onda, and he just kept his eyes on the prize, porque él sabía. He was confident in what God had in store for him for this giant. The second, el segundo que David vio a Goliath, he wanted to fight him. He didn't double think it. He wanted to fight Goliath. He's like, I want to do it. So Saul heard this and sends for David. Because, you know, think about this little boy. Like, think about David tenía como entre 15 y 17 años, about 15, 17 years old. And he shows up on the battle lines y les dice a todos esos soldados, ¿por qué están asustados? Porque no pelean con este gigante. You know, and I can only imagine, maybe a lo mejor unos soldados se enojaron, or, you know, like, or maybe tal vez unos soldados nomás lo miraron y nomás es un niño. David's brother got mad because kind of maybe it cursed him. He's like, this is my little brother, and he's making fun of all our army, pensando que es tan fácil matar a este Goliath, este gigante. David, at this point, I like to call, it was todos tenemos un breaking point. Some translate that as a breaking point. Tenemos un punto.
Todos tenemos un límite.
Un punto where it's make it or break it. You know, we either do something about it or we don't do something about it. David quería hacer algo de esto. He had had enough. He didn't want another day. For 40 days, twice, so 80 times, 80 veces, Goliath dissed God every single day, twice. So Saul calls for David. David fue con Saúl. And it's pretty cool. Una vez más, su propio rey, David's own king, tries to sacar a David de onda. I don't know how else to say that, so I'm going to keep saying that. Desanimar, you go. David, Saul, his own king, su propio rey, trató de desanimar a David. His own king, his own brother, tried to break down and, now I don't even know how to say it in English, tried to, break David and get him to doubt himself. So verse 32. Don't worry about this Philistine, David told Saul. I'll go fight him. Luego Saúl dice, don't be ridiculous. There's no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy. You're only a boy. Saúl calls out David por su exterior. A boy. A boy. He doesn't use man. He uses boy. A boy, compared to a man, it's it's a different picture. It's a different tale to tape. As un gigante, you're a little boy. Imagine if I sit here and I'm fighting, little evil. It's the same thing. Pero Dios doesn't look at the exterior. He looks at the heart. Mira a tu interior, a tu corazón. His own king, su propio rey, didn't think that, no pensó que David lo podía hacer. Don't be ridiculous, Saul replied. There's no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been a man of war since youth. This next verse is el verso seguido, versos. Me gusta porque, let me just read it. But David persisted. I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats, he said. When a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do this against this Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God. That's such a comeback to all comebacks. No sé cómo decir eso en español, pero nunca sabíamos de eso de David. Back until this brought me to, dice aquí que él, él mató, it says plural, both lions and bears, pero luego dice nomás un león. So I don't know, maybe it was muchos leones and muchos osos, but can you imagine peleando against a lion? Todos vimos the movie Revenant. ¿Has visto Revenant con Leonardo DiCaprio? Hay una escena que un oso destroys Leonardo DiCaprio, rips him apart. Un león, a tail of the tape, con un león and un bear, and a human being, a bear and a lion will win. God, every time. But we go back, vamos a regresar al verso 13. I don't know at what point, no podía, I couldn't find out cuánto tiempo ha pasado that the anointing to this point. It goes back to, and it reminds me, me recuerda que, man, he killed a lion and a bear, ¿cómo hizo eso? Well, he did it because from then on out, we saw it here, and the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David from that day on. Y luego hay unos versos que David serves in the Saul's court. So, a lo mejor un tiempo pasado y David regresó a su pueblo. He tended his sheep. maybe around this time that he came up against a lion and a bear, and who knows how much, no sabemos cuánto entrenamiento David did at a training camp, a fight camp, se llama en inglés, antes que los luchadores van a pelear, se llama, it's called a fight camp. Típicamente es como 6-8 semanas que they go into isolation, no sé cómo se dice isolation, y entrenan para la pelea 6 or 8 weeks out. Es muy importante eso porque you study your opponent, you find out his strengths and weaknesses, en que tu, how do you say oponente, que es sus fuerzas and sus weaknesses, I don't know how to say that. So we don't know, but I just can't imagine ver a un human grab a lion and rip, or a bear, I don't know who's draws it, but ripping it and taking the sheep back. Me recuerda que una vez, our beloved Lou, rest in peace, Lou, una vez, es un beagle, lo que no sabía, Lou era un beagle que teníamos desde chiquito. Una vez, Lou se metió en la basura y Lou went into the garbage y agarró un pedazo de carne, like a 4th of July carne asada, not just like a really good arrachera. Xiaomi went and tried to grab the meat from Lou's mouth. Ripped her hand apart. Xiaomi trató de agarrar la carne de la boca de un perro that weighs como, at the time estaba flaco at the time. He was skinny at the time, maybe only weighed 25 pounds. And he le cortó la mano. Could you imagine if a dog did that to your hand? Un perro did that to your hand. Can you imagine what a lion or a bear would do to your hand si le arrancas su food, la comida, back then in the wilderness, that it's free for all? There's another, but God gives you supernatural strength. He gives you, te da, fuerza supernatural to face your giants. Right here we see, he already killed 2 giants, both a bear and a lion would probably kill Goliath. God gives us supernatural strength, nos da fuerza supernatural to face your giants each and every day. He wants us to seek Him. He wants us, he wants us to be so in tune with Him, for His will, and He grants us sometimes even supernatural strength. Lo vemos en la Biblia, we've experienced it, His supernatural power. Maybe, I don't know, no one here has ripped a sheep from a bear's mouth, but I go back to the trip we all took in 08, that was pretty awesome. If you put it on paper, lo ponemos en papel, ese viaje que nosotros vimos, y vimos lo que vimos, escuchamos, it's awesome, ¿verdad? And here we see a human being ripping a sheep from the lion and the bear's mouth. Hay una historia, not a story, it's just a verse, that Elijah, I didn't know this, I just read it, no sabía eso. Elijah outran a horse. También, we see it in the Bible that God gives supernatural strength, ¿verdad? Fuerza supernatural, todos sus siervos. Elijah, Elias, he outran a horse. Could you imagine outrunning a horse? But he did it. So let's go back. Sorry, that's it. I like that. And it wasn't even. Ni era que esa es la única vez que vimos que David nos dice que él mató a un león y a unos osos. You know? No sabemos cuándo hizo eso. You know, ¿por qué nunca le dijo eso? Why he never told anything like that to his dad, his son, you know, his brothers, you know. No había Instagram, so he didn't sit there and like take a selfie with the bear or anything, you know, that a lot of people, muchas veces, in social media, Instagram, muchas personas, you know, they like to puff themselves up to make themselves feel important. Muchas veces la gente ponen cosas en Instagram, you know, to make themselves seem more by outward appearance. And I've really come to realize, I just said realize, me he dado cuenta que muchas cosas que el Señor quiere para nosotros, He really wants us to do it in private. You know, our intimate relationship with God one-on-one is something so important, muy importante, que estar en comunión. A mí me gusta hacerlo, tengo unos lugares que me gusta ir. I have some places that I like to go when I just go and, you know, the Bible describes God's voice in a whisper. You know, hay muchas distracciones en el mundo que tenemos, whether it's social media, amigos, todo, all the distractions. Y a veces es muy difícil ir a un lugar en silencio. O a veces, sometimes we don't even like the silence. I mean, it's not that no es que siempre tengo algo puesto, pero a veces, you know, como estamos hoy en la vida con todo, everything, phones, TVs, teles, sometimes no me da cuenta que sometimes I don't sit there in complete silence. You know, sometimes, you know, it's really important to do that. David kills these lions and bears. And who knows how many times? Training him God lo estaba entrenando para la batalla that everyone else was scared to face. If I had killed a lion and a bear, a man probably wouldn't scare me either. On top of God being behind you. So we're gonna move ahead. So let me just read it again. So Saul dudó a David, lo llamó un niño, and said, David persisted, I have been taking care of my father's sheep and goats. He said, when a lion or a bear comes to steal from the flock, I go after it with a club, rescue the club from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I have done this to both lions and bears, and I will do this to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of God. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. Todos hemos escuchado ese verso, you know, if God's with us, who could be against us? You know, pero muchas veces, you know, I'm guilty of this. A veces we don't think of that. When we have muchas personas en trabajo, or sometimes they come to me with like problems. Whether it's the trabajo, a veces, you know, sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes porque lo que yo quiero decirle a las personas is, man, why don't you pray about it? But then I forget, not everyone's Christian. That's what I would do. You know, it's kind of wild. So Saul says, Saul finally, in verse halfway through 37, Saul finally consented and says, all right, go ahead, he said, and may the Lord be with you. I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't seem like the most, like, to me it was just like Saul said, all right, go ahead, you know, I'm in, sure, no one else is going to do it. And in this next verse, 38, it says, Then Saul gave David his own armor and a bronze helmet and a coat of mail. David put it on, strapped the sword over it, and took a step or two to see what it was like, for he had never worn such things. He had never worn such things. David nunca se ha puesto in armor before, you know. And Michael Jordan, yo pienso, the greatest basketball player ever, my opinion. Let's dijimos que he's a size 15 foot. So he has 15. If you give him a size shoe 17, si le da un 17, él no puede hacer lo que puede hacer con un 15. You know, and here we see that Saul is focused again on está enfocado en lo exterior, and he wants to cover David like a typical como un soldado back in the day. David wasn't used to that, you know. Puedes ser el mejor basketball player, puedes ser el mejor golf player, puedes ser, and even, you know, cuando estamos manejando nuestro carro por años y luego nos ponemos en otro carro, and you sit there and go, okay, hold on a second, you know, I can do this. You look totally new. Yo tengo otra batería o algo me la mueve. You know, and I gotta set it up. David has never put on an armor, a physical armor, porque he just had his staff, and who knows cuántas veces él practicó con su, how do you say sling in Spanish? La lanza. Who knows? La onda. ¿Quién sabe si David, for real, was a professional slinger, or if God just gave him the ability to do it in that moment in time? Pero David then says to Saul, imagínate, if David loses faith and decides to go out y decide ir a pelear a Goliath with this armor, probably would have been a different outcome. A lo mejor es algo diferente, you know. Si David decides to conform to the way of the world, you know, ponerse, you know, fighting the battles how everyone tells you to fight battles this day and age. Como las personas solve problems this day and age. David sabía lo que el Señor tenía preparado por él, y él dice aquí en el verso 39, en medio de 39, I can't go in these, he protested to Saul. I'm not going to use them. So David took them off again, and he picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream and put them in his shepherd's bag. Then, armed only with his shepherd's staff and sling, he started across the valley to fight the Philistine. I don't know if this has any, no sé si tiene una importance, pero yo, leyendo estos versos muy, you know, tratando de entenderlo, esta pregunta, this question had nunca me ocurrió. Muchas personas piensan mucho de esta línea. He picked up 5 smooth stones from a stream, 5. It wasn't until recently, no era hasta, you know, very recently, que a mí me pregunté, like, ¿por qué 5 piedras y nomás era un giant? You know, a lot of people think, I don't know, Goliath had 4 heirs, so a total of 5, you know. But to me, para mí, eso significaba que not only will God prepare you for battle, everyday life, but He over prepares you. But Dios dando la Biblia, this is over preparing to anything you can encounter. Nada te pueda nothing can come against you if you have the word of God. It's not even a contest. That Goliath had no idea what was coming to him. He had no idea what was coming to him. En el verso 41, Goliath walked out towards David and his shield bearer ahead of him. Aquí está, vamos a leer otro verso donde, de nuevo, con las palabras del enemigo, they tried to take David out of whack, para desanimarlo. David is finally standing in front of his giant, and Goliath says this to him. Goliath walked out towards David with his shield bearer ahead of him. Sneering in contempt at this ruddy-faced boy, he says to him, "Am I a dog," he roared at David, "that you come at me with a stick?" He cursed David by the names of his gods. "Come over here and I'll give your flesh to the birds and wild animals," Goliath said. Ooh. No me puedo imaginar que todos los soldados, the Israelites or the Philistines, were thinking at that point, like, man, why you gotta get mad, bro? And God, being the Almighty God, Dios, the Almighty God of everything, especialmente con sus palabras, David de nuevo respondió something else that tried to tear him down. David never lost faith. And this is probably my favorite verse, es mi verso favorito, que David responde a Goliath, his giant, the enemy, your deepest, darkest fears. He looks him straight in the eye, lo ve directamente, doesn't lose sight of him. Y David dice, en verso 45, God's words through David. Antes que lo leo, it just reminds me of a rap battle. A rap battle. You have Goliath and David, and they're about to fight. Or when I watch a fight, the UFC, algo que me gusta ver es la historia antes. Las cosas que, to get them all fired up. A veces, yeah, it's not the best thing. It's entertainment, and los luchadores try to break each other down with words to psych you out antes de la batalla, not, to give you the advantage when it comes to the physical battle. So Goliath tried to break down. He says two things to him. Calls him a ruddy-faced boy. Asks him, "Am I a dog that you come in with a stick?" And he says, "I'm going to feed your flesh to the birds and wild animals." He didn't. Goliath no dijo eso any of the soldiers antes de él. He just cursed God, but now he zoned in and looked at, okay, it is true that you're going to defy me, you little boy, who are you? And then David finally looks at him and replies to the Philistine. En verso 45. David replied to the Philistine, "You come with me. You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head. And then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, but not with sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give it to us." That's pretty cool. David made it known, lo hizo known, that let's say David no dijo eso, no dijo esto. Let's just say he didn't say this. si todos vieron que he killed Goliath without saying this, you know, a lo mejor it wouldn't have the same effect. David reminds us that this is the Lord's battle. He reminds us not to look at the exterior, para no ver the exterior, and to remember that this is the Lord's battle, and He has given me the supreme confidence to face my giant, and He makes it known to everyone. I think his reply was way better than Goliath's. You know, let me just read it again, because I've read this a million times, and I like it. David replied to the Philistine, "You come with me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will cut off your head, and then I will give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel, and everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues His people, but not with sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and He will give it to us." Let's finish it. As Goliath moved closer to attack, David quickly ran out to meet him. I like that verse porque a veces, you know, cuando in life, a veces, you know, in our everyday life, estamos preparando durante el día, we're getting ready in the morning, estamos manejando a trabajo, y algo nos saca de onda, and it ruins the rest of our day. That happens a lot. Hay muchas distracciones en la vida que the enemy tries to psych you out, because he knows, él sabe, that he is no match, the tail of the tape, against the enemy and God. He knows that. So he tries to psych us out, you know, with our thoughts. David didn't back down once Goliath took a step closer to him. The second Goliath moved closer to attack, it says, dice aquí que David corrió to meet him. He didn't take a step back, and again, eso nos dice de nuevo que David had no doubt what he was about to do. He never had a doubt what God had planned for him. He didn't flinch. When someone flinches, or antes de una pelea, los dos luchadores lo ponen face to face, y puedes ver mucho en los ojos de your opponent. You know, Goliath took a step forward, and David didn't even flinch. He ran out to meet him, it says. Reaching into his shepherd's bag and taking out a stone, he hurled it with his sling and hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in, and Goliath stumbled, fell down, face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with only a sling and stone, for he had no sword. Then David ran over, pulled Goliath's sword from its sheath, and David used it to kill him and cut off his head. Como cuando estábamos niños, when we were a kid, muchas veces pensábamos que the sling killed Goliath, but it wasn't so much that. We found out, I honestly didn't know that until not too long ago, no sabía eso, that it wasn't the stone that killed him, but it was his own sword. Siempre escuchamos que God is everywhere, and He uses everything according to His purpose. God in English, this was the perfect counter. En peleando, a veces cuando you're fighting against your opponent, a veces you set traps for him. Pones trampas for you to reach over, and the second you reach, and then you come back, and so. Let me explain that again. David used his own most powerful weapon, la cosa that threatened, how do you say threatened? Que amenazaba a David. The one thing that could kill David, the most important thing, lo más importante que un soldado tiene es su espada. It was the most powerful, weapon que Goliath tenía. And God used his own sword for his demise. Sometimes God uses the most, and he'll flip it. He'll counter the enemy's plan and use it for his own good. We see that a lot. We just have to stay faithful, exactly how David, con la fe que David tenía después de todo este mensaje. El rey, su hermano, who knows, todos los soldados que laughed at him, even Goliath. David always stayed focused and centered on the task at hand, and he knows that there's no giant, no hay nada de gigante that can come against him in the name of the Lord our God. He reminds us before he goes into battle, this is the Lord's battle. He will give it to us. No es yo, no es David peleando contra Goliath. A lot of times we like to, nosotros, a mí me gusta face a problem by myself. A mí no me gusta muchas veces pedir ayuda. And I know it's wrong. I'm working on it. Nosotros no podemos pelear con el enemigo solos. As much as we think que lo podemos hacer, we can't do it. Every day nos vamos a encontrar con estos gigantes, whether it's our deepest, darkest fear, or just a little problem that you come across in everyday life. Si nosotros usamos the Bible, everything that God is, all the weapons, all the 5 stones, la cuerda that God has equipped us with, we can overcome our giants. It's easier said than done, obviously, but we see here, vemos que David triumphed over this big Philistine. Man, it's just pretty cool. I guess my message overall is no hay un gigante más grande que pueda derrotar el poder del Señor. It's really not. And it's okay to ask for help sometimes. The Lord will help you. El Señor te va a dejar. You just have to be willing to give it up. The Lord will literally, I've faced my giants and I will face them every day. And the Lord will help you. Te va a ayudar, each and every one of you, with the training. Maybe you won't kill a bear or a lion, but God will always be behind you. The tail of the tape, it's never going to be you against the enemy. It's going to be you and God versus the enemy. That's my message, to be honest. It wasn't the best.